And it is 9:31 and time for the Friday edition of Tillamook Today. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, and it's Friday.
Yay!
Woo. Yay, the weekend's tomorrow. We have Chad Allen here from the Tillamook County Farm Bureau. Hello, Chad.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's talk about some of the things the Farm Bureau is doing. I know you guys were big advocates for the wetlands legislation that was happening in Salem. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, Senate Bill 1517 is a situation that we've been working on for about 3 or 4 different legislation sessions now through the last decade. And right now, kind of a brief overview. The creation, restoration, and enhancement of wetlands is an outright use on exclusive farm use zoning. Certainly, as we recognize the importance of our wetlands here in Tillamook County and the benefits that they have for clean water and fish improvements, we also recognize that sometimes these restoration projects can be in conflict with adjacent land use. Mm-hmm. And so right now the county had no way in terms of sort of looking at those impacts and putting conditions as a permit to minimize those impacts on adjacent land use. And so we've been working over years to draft legislation that would achieve those goals. And so as of yesterday, Senate Bill 1517 finally passed all the hurdles. Mm-hmm. And we've had a lot of success with help from our local legislators. I'd certainly like to take the time to say thank you to Representative Boone, Representative Gomberg, Senator Roblin, Senator Johnson, and our local commissioner, Mark Labhart. They've really been essential in moving this conversation forward.
Great. And Tillamook County is a pilot, right? There's a pilot program that's happening here to kind of see how that all takes effect and
right. So through this legislation process, there's been a lot of moments of compromise. At first, we went into it with the idea to make a statewide land use change, and through that process, we've come to the bill that it is today. And so it's going to be a pilot project that lasts for 10 years, and the primary provisions are that it'll give Tillamook County the option for local approval of wetland projects cited in exclusive farm use zones to ensure that the projects will not impact nearby agricultural operations. And the second, that it will allow Tillamook County to create a collaborative process that a project applicant can choose to use to achieve agreement regarding the conditions necessary to protect neighboring agricultural operations. And it also directs the Tillamook County to enter into a planning process involving all the diverse group of stakeholders that will allow the county to be more effectively plan priority areas for the restoration and priority areas where the maintenance of agricultural operations will be protected. And this will last over a 10-year period of time. And so certainly our goal is at the conclusion of those 10 years that this becomes a permanent statute here in Tillamook County and a template to create a statewide provision that would deal with the projects on exclusive farm use zones and their potential impacts on neighboring operations. And so our goal in this entire process is to create an avenue for compatibility, and so that we have working lands here in Tillamook that can achieve all the necessary goals that we have. Certainly agriculture has been the backbone of the history of Tillamook County, but also the fisheries industry is also shares in that same situation, and it's important at Tillamook County. And so when we have opportunities to engage in projects that would convert farm ground into tidal inundation or some sort of a wetland creation project, that it doesn't negatively impact the groundwater on adjacent land use.
Right.
And so it's really designed to be a win-win for everybody. It's designed to allow those neighboring properties to be sort of function as part of the design of that project, and that everybody can be successful in the end.
Yeah, because I was reading online that to maintain adequate drainage for the farmers, when there's a wetlands construction project, it kind of alters that drainage pattern and can increase flooding or change, the way that you're doing your operations. Right?
Absolutely. Well-drained soils are critical for healthy plant growth. And so in certain areas where you take a channel that's been closed off for 100 years and open it up to tidal inundation again, if it's being shared on agricultural ground also that's upstream from that, it can make those pieces of property less efficient and more wet. You might not be able to get out until June to harvest those crops. And these types of things we just don't know. And so to design a project to mitigate and minimize those impacts is just being good neighbors. And often these projects, at least the large-scale ones, are predominantly funded through state and federal grants and different agencies. And so our taxpayers are helping pay for these type of projects, and they just want a voice in the design of them so that we can all benefit from them.
So before this bill went into place, those projects didn't require any review of anything, right? It just somebody could come in, take over some land, call it a wetlands, and that's it, right?
Well, they don't necessarily take over the land, but they purchase it through willing sellers, and they often use money from Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board to offset some of those acquisition costs and things, and so in the past they didn't have to recognize what those negative impacts would be on the adjacent land use. Now, the county, along with the Tillamook Farm Bureau and the Creamery Association, and other partners and stakeholders are starting what we call the Land Preferred Alternative Southern Fork Corridor Project, and that's going to create roughly 500 acres of saltwater marsh and open up 2 historical sloughs for tidal inundation and fish habitat. It also is designed to sort of be a flood control, or it was designed as a flood control project, utilizing those sites that were acquired years ago at the end of Goodspeed Road. And through that process, the reason it's called the Land Preferred Alternative is because those landowners adjacent to that project were pivotal in the design components of it. And so there's going to be new improvements in tie gates construction for those adjacent land use owners. We made some different changes in the design to make sure that we didn't negatively impact the neighboring properties, and so it was really designed to be a win-win situation, hopefully, and so. But there was no requirement from the county ordinance, our state ordinances, to do any of those types of things. We just had to continue to educate and voice our concerns to sort of mold that project around those concerns so that we could control that as much as we could.
No, and that's really cool that Tillamook County is becoming a kind of a pilot program for the rest of the state. I think that's really
well. The Southern Fork Corridor Project is certainly one of the biggest wetland improvement projects on the coast of Oregon, and there's been a lot of players in it, and we're really getting excited about it. We've just started some of the tree removal on that process, and to remove some of the old spoil sites that had happened. Some 100 years ago, and to increase that conveyance of water to the bay, and so it's going to be done by the end of the summer.
Oh, great!
And there's going to be a whole bunch of additional flood construction control functions of that project, and so it's really designed to be a win-win for everybody, and it's been sort of really designed by the community here in Tillamook, and so
that's great. Well, we are going to take a quick break and talk about Rosenbergs. Mark your calendar. April 1st is rapidly approaching, and what is special about April 1st, you ask? Well, of course, it's April Fool's Day, but it's also Rosenbergs' 10-year anniversary. That's right, it has been 10 years since they bought that store. So in appreciation of all the customers that have shopped there and continue to shop there, they're having an anniversary bash. Hamburgers, hot dogs, pop, cake, and much more. And what makes this anniversary celebration special is all the free stuff. I know what you're thinking. Rosenbergs and free stuff seems like an oxymoron, but it's true. All day Friday, stop by and fill out a ticket and put it in the bucket. They will draw tickets throughout the afternoon. They'll be giving away a 6-tool Milwaukee cordless combo kit, a Craftsman 2800 PSI pressure washer, and a lawn cart loaded with soil and tools. There will be other items as well. Stop by and see. The following weekend is the Home and Garden Show. If your name wasn't drawn, it will go into the bucket. If your name wasn't drawn on April 1st, it will go in the bucket for a grand prize, which is a $1,500 Rosenbergs gift card. They'll draw for it and other prizes at the Home and Garden Show. And Lowton says, thanks for 10 great years. Build it, plumb it, wire it, paint it. Rosenbergs Builder Supply, Tillamook. Get all the stuff that you need for all your spring stuff. What else can we talk about? The digester? Are we good on the wetlands? Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
Well, it is, for those that have ever been involved in anything at the state capitol, moving legislation forward, to say it's complicated is probably not being real honest, but it's quite a unique experience. And as we've gone through this journey, we've certainly gotten more and more support for the direction in which we were seeking. I know that on the conservation side of this conversation that's gone on at the Capitol, there's been a lot of sort of resistance sort of developed out of fear, mm-hmm. and what the objectives of this legislation was going to be to kill further conservation efforts.
Sure.
And I would say that's couldn't be farther from the truth.
Right.
Tillamook County farmers have a long history of involving in conservation efforts, riparian planting, streamlined fencing. We have been pivotal in our rivers meeting the clean water standards that mm-hmm. are out there today. The Tillamook Creamery has a long history of different other restoration projects. I represent the creamery on the Tillamook Nestucca Fish Passage Project, which has the potential of opening just hundreds of miles of blocked off fish habitat, and it's a really simple concept. Certain as culverts come to maturity, they're replaced with culverts that allow for 100% fish mm-hmm. passage, and so. Some of those are down here in the lowlands. Some are going to be upland. It's just a really neat project to get behind, and they're going to be kicking off a fundraiser event here. I can't recall what day it is right now, but it's going to be down in PC at the Pelican Pub.
Fun, always fun.
Yeah, drink for a good cause.
Yeah,
and so as well as removal of a dam on Cold Creek. Was another huge restoration project that the creamery engaged in on their own, and so we're just going to continue to move into the future, seeking opportunities for fish and restoration improvements, and we just want to be part of that design work and make sure that Tillamook can sustain all working lands for all sorts of different needs and purposes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was going to say, it doesn't, in all the stuff that I've read about the wetland bill and all that, it's not that anyone's against having wetlands. It's just, and, conservation areas or whatever. It's just, let's make sure we understand the impact that it has on the neighboring farms and their agriculture and all that. I think everybody in Tillamook would agree. We all love where we live, and it's so beautiful here, but we got to make sure everybody can make a living to sell, right?
Absolutely, and this has been designed around the basic concept of compatibility, mm-hmm. not elimination.
Right.
So,
right.
For those that have projects that they've been looking at proposing, and have some reservations in that process, I would certainly encourage them to reach out to me, and I would certainly help guide that process.
That's great.
So,
and can they do that through the Farm Bureau? Can they find you through the Farm Bureau?
absolutely. In the phone book.
Or in the phone book, yes, because we sell phone books around here.
Yes, we do.
Let's talk about the digester, because I heard you mention, I think to Shane or somebody, that there was a 90-day extension on the so it was supposed to end at the end of March, right? It was supposed to be shut down?
Yes. I'm one of the shippers that participate in hauling or sending raw manure to the digester. Mm-hmm. And so 30 days ago, we got a 60-day notice. And since that time, there's been additional work on trying to make sure that we exhaust all opportunities mm-hmm. to keep it as a functioning digester and keeping it open. A system like that, certainly if you close it,
has a big impact, I would think.
Well, it can, and it's just expensive to get started up again, so we want to really make sure before that decision is made that we've looked at all opportunities to do that. And so there's been a commitment from the dairymen that are shipping to that to help offset some of the hauling costs to the facility. And then the creamery is going to engage into a feasibility study to make sure that they exhaust all opportunities for that to remain open. And so there'll be an extension to the end of June to come up with ideas and sort of an economic analysis mm-hmm. to move that forward.
Great. And just explain for maybe those people that don't understand what the purpose of a digester is.
Well, how a digester functions is the end result is methane that is burned to generate electricity, mm-hmm. and so the state legislation have put in different levels of mandates on different energy co-ops to have a certain amount of what they call renewable energy that's not hydro in their power portfolio. And so this is one of those sources. And so right now Tillamook has 3 different methane digesters. And so through that microbial action of digesting the solids in manure, they produce methane. And so
it's bacteria in there, right? That's eating the
poop. Right. These digesters work a lot like a rumen in a dairy cow, and mm-hmm. so the bacteria digest those solids, mm-hmm. and the result that they give off is the methane, and then so that's captured and then burned to the generator to produce electricity, and so it's one of these renewable sources of energy, especially here in Tillamook, and so other benefits are when the manure goes through a digestion system, the effluent that's taken at the tail end of it is fecalcoliform pathogen free, mm-hmm. and so there's certainly some water quality benefits for it.
Sure.
In terms of being reapplied to the pasture lands around here, mm-hmm. and it produces better fertilizer also. There's a little bit of a change in tied up nitrogen versus plant available nitrogen, mm-hmm. and so more of that nitrogen is plant available when it's applied, and so.
And you said there were 3 digesters.
Mm-hmm.
But this one in particular, several farms use, right? Are the other 2 are they private or?
Well, this has always been kind of deemed as a community digester, right. Where there's a digester on McCormick, and it's sort of a community digester also. There's several dairies that are participating in that, and they have actual underground lines that achieve the transport of the raw.
So they don't have to truck it in.
They don't have to truck it in, and so that's certainly one of the challenges of the port digester, is that all that raw manure has mm-hmm. to be trucked in, and trucking is not a cheap endeavor. So
right.
That sort of puts that digester at a little bit of an economic disadvantage, mm-hmm. and some of the biomass tax credits that are derived from the state help offset those, but it's not a one-for-one offset.
Right. And it's the one off of Highway 6, right? Is the other digester?
Yes.
And that's a private digester? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's on David Hogan's
Yeah.
dairy, and so he certainly supplies all the manure
For
to
his,
that.
I can imagine that's a big expense. We're going to take a quick break and talk about the Tillamook Regional Medical Center. March is National Nutrition Month, and nutrition experts at Tillamook Regional Medical Center are ready to help you improve your diet. Getting the vitamins, nutrients, and minerals the body needs is important to maintaining health. Eating at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables each day can help prevent chronic disease like diabetes, hypertension, and obesity, all of which are linked to heart disease. Boost the amount of leafy greens, citrus fruits, and berries you eat. Eating a handful of nuts, legumes, seeds, oats, or whole grains each day is also beneficial to health. Cut out soda, potato chips, pastries, and other foods high in sugar, fat, and carbohydrates that can lead to high blood pressure, blood sugar, weight gain, and inflammation. In addition to eating well, try to get at least 30 minutes of daily activity to keep pounds off the tummy and fight chronic diseases. To find out more, talk to the experts at Tillamook Regional Medical Center. They are committed to the health and wellness of our community. So we're here talking to Mr. Chad Allen from the Farm Bureau. What is the Farm Bureau? Can you give us a brief recap? Recap. Lovely live radio.
Yeah, so the Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization that is comprised of not only farmers involved in agriculture, but also associate members in the community. And we certainly couldn't be successful without those associated memberships supporting the Farm Bureau. And so we deal with a lot of issues at the state capitol. Nationwide, the Farm Bureau's got millions of participants. It's one of the biggest grassroots organizations that I'm aware of, and so they just are really key in all sorts of different laws that are developed at the state level, and deterring bad laws. I would say they probably spend as much time, investigating and understanding laws that are proposed for all sorts of different reasons and their impacts on agriculture for everybody in the state of Oregon. And so, Mary Ann Nash, who's the policy one of the policy advisors for State Farm Bureau, has been instrumental in the success of our collaborative wetland bill, and we certainly appreciate all the effort that she put into that.
Yeah, so from what I understand, the Farm Bureau is kind of the governmental advocate for farmers and agriculture. Is that kind of a concise way? Yeah, which is great because I know I didn't pay much attention to government stuff when I was in school. So if I was ever to do anything like that, I would definitely need some type of advocate. So that's great that there's that resource out there. And like you said, it's nationwide. It's not just our state or our community. It's a nationwide program. Yeah,
and they, the national organization spends an amazing amount of time at Washington advocating for aspects of the Farm Bill, evaluating potential regulations from EPA. There's been conversations for quite some time on sort of redefining the role of EPA in the Clean Water Act, and so they've been pivotal in making sure that there's clarity brought to that conversation, there's not overreaching and unintended consequences of those regulations that really have local impacts here in Tillamook. The Clean Water Act and regulations associated with our CAFO programs and potential impacts on clean water are a big part of our business today, and the farmers really play a big role in achieving those goals, and we've, like I talked about earlier, have been real successful in implementing different conservation elements in our own personal properties, as well as time goes on in all aspects of business, you develop better management practices that achieve those goals, and through science, and have a positive result, not only for the environment, but for the production of whatever type of agricultural products you're engaged in.
Great. And the Farm Bureau also, I think, it supports a lot of 4-H and FFA, right? It really kind of helps those kids understand what all that is and supports all of those activities.
Absolutely. We give several different scholarships throughout the year to 4-H and FFA, and try to continue to support our FFA program at the high school level. It's really, the FFA program has just been a huge success, in not only in Oregon but throughout the United States, of just growing good kids and leaders, and the things and experiences that kids can have through participating in FFA and learning about public speaking and parliamentary procedures and these types of things, challenge kids to sort of take some risk, do things that they may not normally do, and those that aren't necessarily involved in direct agriculture get an opportunity to have a better understanding of where their food comes from,
right?
How it's produced, sort of,
it doesn't just show up on the plate.
From growing different kinds of crops and vegetables and all these types of things. So we definitely put a lot of support in that.
Yep, and those are like it says, it's our future farmers of America. Well, thanks so much, Chad. Monday, we will have the Port of Garibaldi here. Don't forget senior meals, noon every weekday at the Kiowanda Community Center in Pacific City. Cost is $3 for seniors and $6.75 for everyone else. Also, 11:30 senior meals, 11:30 at St. Mary's by the Sea in Rockaway Beach every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. At 11:30 today, the Early Childhood Screening Fair wraps up another year. I believe it starts at 11:30. Or maybe it's over. I'm not sure. Sorry. Let me look. I think it starts. Community partnerships, generous in-kind and financial donations, along with more than 100 volunteers, both locally and from Portland area university programs, make it possible to offer these services free of charge to our community's young children to help ensure they begin school as ready as to learn as possible. Tomorrow night at the fairgrounds, it's Bulls and Barrels at the beach. Mutton busting for the little ones, barrel racing, and for the main attraction, some of the toughest bull riding action on the coast, provided by Howell Rodeo Company. The gates open at 5:30. Tuesday, the Pioneer Museum is back open. It's been closed for 3 weeks to replace the flooring in the Natural History Museum with oak flooring. It will reopen with a new exhibit, Let's Talk, a history of communication. Also tomorrow, there's a free program at the library at 3:30. Maggie Stuckey, author of Soup Night, Creating Community Around a Pot of Soup, will be there. Enjoy a cup of soup and learn how to bring friends and neighbors together. And then Tuesday, March 8th, there is an all-choir program at Tillamook High School at 7 o'clock. It's free, but donations are accepted. It's the junior high and the high school choir departments performing. And happy birthday to Patty Swain, Gina Marino, and happy anniversary to Susan and Kevin Pulliam. Thanks, Chad, for coming in.
Thank you.
And have a great weekend. Thanks, Tillamook, for listening.